Okay, friends, I am excited to tell you a little bit about what we talked about at the club event. If you weren't able to make it, or if you're just interested in really what we're doing here at the club, let me share a few things with you. So, for one, the club operates under certain principles. We believe that business is a team sport, that nobody wins alone. The club is really geared around experts helping experts connect, learn, and grow. That's exactly what we did. I do want to bring some clarity that to those that haven't been in the room with us to tell you exactly who we are and the type of people that we attract. We are seven-figure business owners and investors in the real estate space. We're looking to design our business to get us closer to the life that we want. That's why we're doing it. We want meaningful connections with others of high character and integrity. We are principle and framework driven. I'm going to talk about what I mean by that today. And we're true givers who value collaboration over competition. We have some core values that we talk about. We are people of high caliber, high character, and true collaborators in the sense. And, I want to just share why this is so important to have these frameworks, these principles, things like this. And I'm going to use this chart. And we talked about this quite a bit at the event. The title of this event was called Reading the Terrain because things have changed, especially in the last couple years. And what we're seeing is that the tactics and the strategies that may have worked before are starting to become less viable. Specific markets determine different things. I mean, there's a lot of nuance to this. But in general, what I find is high performers as compared to, let's say, average business owners, and I'm not talking about their, average in the sense that they're not, great people, but I just mean like the way that the majority of entrepreneurs think is through tactics. They're looking for the next thing. How do I apply AI to all these different things that I'm doing? What's the next hiring technique? What's, the next kind of tool or tactic I can use to grow my business? And I'm not suggesting that tactics aren't important, but I think there's an order of operations to this. First of all, before we select the right tactic or tool, do we have the correct strategy being applied to our unique situation in the market? So, of course, there's an infinite number of strategies that exist out there, especially in the real estate space. Just so many different things: Airbnbs, developments. There's marketing strategies. There's, you could run a property management company. Point being is like, if we don't have the right strategy, the tactics don't really become that important anyways. And I'll give an example to this. Like, you think about construction, and this is sort of my area of expertise, really. It's like, you don't give somebody a hammer and then have them go around and look for things to hammer. Like, you do it because you're trying to solve a problem. Like, we're trying to build a wall. Okay, great. How do you build a wall? There's probably a framework that exists on how to build a wall. Then there's different strategies that you can execute on that. Maybe it's a nail gun. Maybe it's a hammer. Maybe it's a screw. The point being is like, you've got to solve problems in the correct order. And the majority of the things that I'm seeing right now are people trying to apply tactics, but they don't have the right strategy selected. So you ask the question, well, how do you get the right strategy? And so here's the thing is like, I refer to this as reality. As things are constantly changing, as the strategies and the things that made us successful in one, under certain conditions, as those conditions change, the strategies need to adjust, and same with the tactics that we're using, right? So that's a very important side. And I like to refer to that as just like what's actually happening in reality. I mean, the terrain is the reality, right? So at the same time, what I notice is that, and I've learned this through my mentors over the years, is that high performers really don't focus as much on that as they do on the toolbox that they've developed for themselves to make better decisions. And this is the right orientation, in my opinion, to be thinking. And it starts with principles. And here's the thing is like, this is a very personal thing. Like, I can't tell you what your principles are, and nor should I. These are things that I believe to be true. And we always start there. So I'll give you a couple examples. One of the things that I believe to be true is that our businesses should help us get closer to the life that we want. I also believe that business is a team sport. Because my experience in reality tells me that that's a principle, regardless of the terrain, regardless of the strategy. This doesn't really matter. It's that I believe business is a team sport. That's how I choose to operate. I see things like high performers are true servant leaders. And again, that may not be an objective statement, because I certainly know plenty of people who have made lots of money that don't really give a shit about their clients. They're just trying to scale a company. But I believe that true high performance comes through servant leadership. I say things like the ideal state for an entrepreneur is calm, because when you're calm, you can see the field for what it is, not for what you want it to be. This is a Charlie Munger thing that I've chosen to adopt this year, that anytime you're solving a problem, you invert the situation. And again, if you're in the club, you know what I mean there. This is probably my most important principle that I've had to really adopt, which is that I reserve the right to change my mind. As I continue to grow, as I continue to learn, as I continue to get exposure to different things, the strategies and the tactics that I'm using, I reserve the right to change my mind. I think the intention here is that you've got to develop your own list of personal principles that you choose to operate under. We start there because it informs the choices of the frameworks that we choose to implement. I like to think of the frameworks as the bridge between your principles and engaging into reality. If you've heard me talk before, you've probably heard me talk about this a million times. The barbell, actually, I call it a strategy, but it's really a framework is what it is. Again, if you're not familiar with the club, this may be a little foreign to you. But the idea here is this is a strategy to help me get closer to the life that I want, build a business around the life that I want with the least amount of risk and effort, which are principles I've adopted, right? So we do that by not loading, trying to keep as much weight out of the middle of the bar. If you're unfamiliar with the barbell, the idea here is that when you load weight in the middle of a bar, it can create this very back and forth feeling. And that kind of shows up in your business where some days it's going really well, some days it's going really terrible. It's that, that seesaw, and it shows up as like what we like to call as brain damage. And what we believe is that you should have two sides of your business. One is really finding your sweet spot. If you notice, I'm a big fan of these really simple frameworks because they're just more effective, frankly. So when we describe the sweet spot, what we mean by that is it's a very simple message. You've got clarity on exactly who you're trying to serve. You know exactly who you're talking to. You're not talking to too many people. You're not trying to do too many things. You're trying to really get better at serving that client. You're being paid well to fund the lifestyle that you want. These are traits of what it feels like when you're playing in your true sweet spot of your business. When you have that reliability, well, it feels easy. It's a light lift for you. You're using your resources effectively. That means the people that work for you, the financial systems, the marketing systems, all the things that you're using all those dollars efficiently. And probably just as importantly as all these other things, that you're thriving. You're in a place where you are learning, you're growing, you're prospering, you have energy in your life. Because what most of us want by using this strategy is not to do no real estate deals. It's to do less but bigger real estate deals. And sorry for the misspelling of asymmetric here, but we're using the reliable side of this barbell, the sweet spot over here, to really create space to allow us to be able to do bigger and better things each year. We do that through frameworks like the deal triangle, which is here. Again, everything goes back to real estate's a team sport and nobody wins alone. This is a principle that we have. So this framework, this isn't rocket science. I don't know that I made this up. I think if you've been in this business for long enough, you've probably observed that there's really three sides to every big deal, whether that's development or multifamily or commercial or whatever it is, right? Somebody's got to find the deal. Somebody's got to fund and, get the debt, the equity, all those things. And then somebody's got to swing the hammer and actually operate it. And so as we think about things like the frameworks that we choose to adopt, we're always selecting frameworks that are helping us take the principles that we have and then apply it to reality. And so through these lenses of these frameworks and this toolbox that we develop as entrepreneurs, we can then meet reality with the right orientation, basically. That's how I would describe that. Because here's the thing is like, for some people, development's the right fit, and some people it isn't. Some people, wholesaling's the right fit, and some people it isn't. You have all these different strategies and tactics that work, but if you don't process those decisions through a toolbox that you're using, what you're going to do is you're going to find that the strategies and tactics oftentimes struggle to meet reality. And so this is the orientation that we talked about during this day. We talked about these frameworks. We talked about then how to apply that stuff to the strategies and the tactics that we're using. So I just can't stress enough how important this orientation of thinking has served me in my business. And really, this is the basis for what our next series inside the club is going to be about, helping you build out this toolbox for yourself so that as you're deciding on what strategy should I be doing, how should I be navigating my business, what then tools and tactics do I need, that stuff becomes significantly easier. It takes time to learn this stuff, but I find that it's the most effective way to building a strong business that gets you closer to the life that you want. So just wanted to make this video to share some of the key things that we're talking about in the club and that we're thinking about as high performers in this space. And feel free to take this and adopt it to your own. I highly recommend that you develop your own personal and economic principles, and they don't have to be anything close to what I have. Your frameworks, feel free to adopt your own frameworks, but I highly recommend using this as a way to make better decisions in your business if your goal is to get closer to the life that you want. So that's a little bit about what we talked about, and hopefully this is helpful for you.